listening to the Ice Prep Podcast. Here's your hosts, Bryan and Pat.
Hello. Is Pat being a mime over there, or what's going on?
No, for those that aren't watching, I have a blur filter on. I never have a blur filter on because I've got literal garbage bags behind me because I'm moving.
Which is great as you adjust, it just hard focuses on it.
Yeah, it's just randomly choosing to show the garbage bag. So yeah, I was just testing it because I've never used it before.
And back when we used to do this audio only, that's what I had to use because I was at work doing part of the recording. So fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, for those watching, there's something new behind me here. I'll move this way.
Ooh, we've got a banner behind Bryan.
Yeah, because Pat took his down, so figured we needed a banner up. Because, so after we finish recording these episodes, we usually hang around and chat for a few minutes. And Pat says, bye. Okay, see you Saturday. And just left. And I was like, what? What's going on? I had no idea that you and your wife were coming over for a game night on Saturday. And even my wife, when I asked, she was like, they are? Oh, okay, that's kind of neat. So that was fun.
And she was in on it the whole time. Yeah, I brought the banner over because I found it at a thrift shop here. But no, Bryan, your wife was, I think, the one that instigated it.
I think so,
to be
too.
Honest. I had no part in planning it because, let's be honest, that's not what I do. But yeah, so my wife Zoe was texting back and forth, and yeah, we came over, which is the third time I've gone to your place. So
yeah, that's the third time, which is pretty good considering we moved in at the start of the pandemic. Just thinking back to it, and we've been to the place that you're at now once. And that was literally just in the backyard. No, I've been to your place twice now that I think of it, because I picked you up for golfing one day.
Right, but you didn't. But both times you didn't come inside. So there you go. You have no idea what this place looks like, and you never will.
I just know the small corner, and whenever you send me photos of you watching hockey on your laptop and Zoe watching Drag Race on your TV.
Yep, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the whole place. So you're not missing much. It's very, very tiny. So it'll be nice to be in a place where there's more than 2 rooms.
Well, and then the next 2 weeks or the week after next, you'll have a different background, and then working towards at the new place.
I'm probably going to be recording here still, just because this has internet that isn't pretty much one step up from dial-up. And I'm pretty sure that, the lag, you'll ask me a question, and then 35 minutes later, I'll go into a tirade. So, not really worth it. But yeah, no, I'll be popping in here before all of that anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, so there's life updates. We've got some crazy freezing rain on the way, so that's always fun outside. But hopefully it doesn't affect us here at all. Not a lot happened trade-wise in the NHL last week. Actually, I don't think anybody's been traded since we last spoke, but it's been crazy because there's been, I can't remember any other years where they're like, this player is scratched for trade-related reasons. There's a handful of them. Seems like things with the Oilers and the Sharks have heated up like crazy. Reports that the Oilers actually threw an offer to try and get Erik Karlsson. And then saw earlier today that I can't remember.
Well, Timo Meier and New Jersey, the talks have ramped up. First round pick is in play, potentially second round pick as well is in play. And then I also read that there could be a prospect in there as well. So the price for Meier is redonkulously high. And
if it's a prospect, it'll probably be a first, second, and Holtz would be my guess. Just to
maybe Mercer. He hasn't been performing too well.
Well, that's what happens when you don't have Jack Hughes to kind of bump your numbers a little bit. Yeah, he was kind of running the third line a little bit, but he would still get it's sophomore. Sophomore slump's a big thing in the NHL. The Oilers player Puljujarvi not on waivers and was not on the ice to practice earlier today for the Oilers. Of course, they don't play tonight. They play Friday.
Wait, before we walk away from the Oilers, just a quick little aside. is tomorrow night that we see the first player of this season to hit the triple digits.
Probably.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, he put up a measly 2 points in the Oilers'
Ooh.
last game. Had to stop at Gretzky's number. I mean, why would he do such a thing?
Although it is against New York, so there's a good chance that he may not do too well. You never know. And it might just end up being against the team that they play on Sunday, which will be super duper. Yeah, but back to trade talks. The one that actually, speaking of indirectly, the Colorado Avalanche, they now have some space. You've got Eric Johnson, who, Coach Bednar said that it looks like he's not going to be returning before the playoffs. Hopefully he's there for the playoffs. I mean, he's always just such a character piece on the bench, so it's a good person to have there. And him and Landeskog, like, he has a horse that's named Landeskog. So,
which is, by the way, a great name for a horse.
right? But now you've got Eric Johnson's contract that's wide open on LTIR. You've got some other people that are still, kind of struggling to get back. So I'm curious to see what moves they're going to do. And people keep whispering Ryan O'Reilly. So it'll be interesting. I don't think he can keep up, but I think it'll be interesting if they do try and make that move for him.
Well, he goes immediately, to your third. And the reason you're bringing Ryan O'Reilly in, you think second? Well, the reason you're bringing Ryan O'Reilly in is for two things. One, for the leadership / character. And two, because he's still like the best face-off center on the planet. Mm-hmm. And we've seen, like, unless you're Boston and you can still somehow pull out a win in overtime by having the worst face-off percentage in a game in like 50 years, you need to be good on the dot to win games. And how many times did we see in the playoffs last year offensive zone starts and the other team just couldn't get the puck or couldn't get it out, and it was a goal for the other team? Like, that becomes so much of a bigger thing in the playoffs. Those face-off numbers in the regular season, who cares?
Well, that's something actually really interesting from watching a lot of the New Jersey games. I've noticed that once they get into the end and set up, it is so difficult for the other team to get the puck away from them. They have really, really, really perfected the tire them out. I've noticed it multiple times, whether they're on the power play or whether they're not. They hold on and just exhaust that team.
And it's not just from their speed too. Their speed is a big part of it. But yeah, they get the puck in, and the passing. I think it helps that we've got three solid lines of defensemen that, like, each line has somebody that can move the puck very well. Yeah. Especially now that Marino's back, that's a huge thing for us. Who would have thought that the Pittsburgh Penguins throwaway player would end up being such a key piece for the Devils? But
Jay Fresh did.
Yeah,
he called it from the start. He was just like, why are they just throwing this guy away? He's so good. Like, what is going on? Like, all the underlining stats prove that he was a completely competent player. So, yeah. Oof on that one.
Yeah, what you were saying before, I'm still of the mindset that there's no way the Devils can make the playoffs, because I'm just like, I conditioned for it. If we actually acquire Timo Meier and all it takes is a first, a second, and a prospect, I think I'm all in. Like, as in them making the playoffs finally. They need.
You say finally, like it hasn't been like it's been 20 years. It's been how many years? Like
we had one with Taylor Hall literally dragged us kicking and screaming in, and we took one game off the Lightning. Hooray! And then before that was, if I remember correctly, was that the Stanley Cup final? It may have been. I think that might be. I'll have to look that one up. But if the Devils actually want to try and make a run in the playoffs, they need a winger for Jack Hughes, who is not named Eric Holla. Last week we talked about it, I believe, in that he's playing with one of the most dynamic players, and he has like a fourth the points somehow. Like, every single assist is always Dougie Hamilton. instead of one of his line mates. So if Haula moves down, that's great for the Devils. Haula on the third line, that's a good player to have on the third line. That's the type of player when we talk about the Leafs, we're like, they just need that. But they're not taking him from us.
No. And 2011, 2012 was the last time the Devils, 2017, 2018 was their last appearance.
Taylor Hall, MVP, and then Stanley Cup final, right?
Yeah. So 24 games played. So in 2011, 2012. So even still, they've at least made a semi-recent appearance. It's not like, I don't know, I'm just going to choose a random team, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
It's still 5 years since the last playoff berth for the Devils. So it's been a hot minute. It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, sorry, I misspoke there. I said the Toronto Maple Leafs, they get in all the time. They just haven't won anything. That's my apology. My apologies. I had the wrong burn set up.
No, they win a lot of things. They just can't figure out what comes after 3.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not Buffalo.
Which, by the way, let's switch cameras here. Let's scroll down. Oh, no, Buffalo. The only thing in Buffalo's favor right now is that they have a lot of games in hand on everybody in the wild card race except for Pittsburgh. Like, that is the one thing. If they win their next 3 games, technically they sit in wild card 2.
Yeah.
But they need to start winning at home because you're not going to make the playoffs with a losing home record. Doesn't matter if you're 16-8-2 on the road. If you're 11 and you have a worse home record than the Ottawa Senators, than the Detroit Red Wings and the Canadiens, like, they're almost down there at Columbus levels for home. Buffalo has to figure that one out. I do want to see them make the playoffs, though, because you've said many times, we want to see what Tage Thompson looks like in the playoffs, because that style of player
he'll find, the gear that he's going to kick into in the playoffs is going to be something unreal. Now, speaking of gears, I'd like to switch this gear. Look at that segue. That was disgusting. That was awful. Anyway, sorry, there's little hairs on my, I have to pay attention to what I'm talking about. How many times have we talked about the goalie factory that is the Arizona Coyotes? Because last night, Connor Ingram got a shutout against the Tampa Bay Lightning, his first career shutout, 47 shots, goes into overtime, and he blocks all of it in the shootout. So congratulations to Connor Ingram, one of the best personalities on Twitter. If you don't follow him, you should. He's hilarious. But he was a good goaltender. I was surprised that he was put on waivers from Nashville, and obviously somebody scooped him up. It was an absolute steal by the Arizona Coyotes, and it took a bit for him to get used to that system. It showed when he first started out, he was rocky.
Well,
he was sitting in 800, 700.
It takes a little bit to get used to having 47 shots thrown at you. So that takes a little bit of an adjustment.
I guess, having a constant barrage of pucks being thrown at your face at all times. So it took him a little while to get into that. And then he's currently sitting this season with a .907 save percentage and a 3.38 goals against average. The goals against, he only has 4 wins, 11 losses, and he's at .907, which is redonkulous. But when you look at his last, handful of games, save percentage, perfect. 909, 956, 905, 897, 925, 926, 968, 903, 927. That goes back to December 17th.
This is the Arizona Coyotes. Like,
goalie factory.
And one thing that's really fun, so him getting that shutout, he now holds the NHL record for most saves in for his first career shutout. Do you know who has number 2?
Bruder.
Vejmelka with 46. He did
Come
that.
on.
He did that literally 2 years ago.
against the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I don't remember who it was, but like literally number 1 and number 2 are Arizona Coyotes goalies. It is the funniest. Like all off season and kind of leading into this season, we were like, look out for Seattle. They're going to have this amazing 1-2 punch. They're starting to get things figured out. Arizona, if they somehow land Bedard, they've got the back end figured out. Mind you, they're not going to have defensemen because apparently Chychrun could end up who knows where. That's the one trade player we didn't talk about. But
he's been linked to pretty much every single team.
But they have a half decent forward core. Like everybody still underestimates how good Clayton Keller is.
Yeah. Did you see his shootout goal?
No, I did not.
It was just poetry on ice. The other thing, they've got a prospect in Soderstrom. So he's a younger defenseman. He's taking a couple more years, I think, than they expected to develop, but he is a very good shutdown defenseman, and he's got a little bit of size to him. So that's another really interesting prospect. They've got Dylan Genther, who's he's playing in the WHL right now. They sent him down to it because why not? Give him more time, give him more confidence after winning gold.
And of course, they just drafted 3rd overall Logan Cooley, who is expected to be an absolute standout from that draft class.
They had another kid too that really stood on his head, like not stood on his head, that's goaltending, but just like really kind of showed how amazing he is in the World Juniors. I can't remember who it was, but was it Cutter Gauthier? I think it was Cutter Gauthier for Team USA. He really was fantastic on ice. So these are all just prospects that are ready to come up. And then even if they don't get Bedard, they're going to get a top 5 pick. I'd be blown away if they didn't get a top 5 pick. If they get number 2, they're going to get, what is it? No, it's not Maselli. Is it?
Fantilli.
Fantilli. I was close. I knew it was a very Italian sounding name. And he is looking incredible. So like they're going to have this young core that once they gel, maybe in 3 years, they're going to be scary as long as they're able to keep whatever goaltending coach they have. Oh, that system is ridiculous.
And I didn't even know who their coach was. I had to look it up. Andre Turigny. I used to be an assistant coach for the Senators and the Avs, so you should actually know who he is.
I don't pay attention to the assistant coaches.
Fair enough. Like
sorry.
the Yotes are honestly potentially next season's turnaround into the playoff team. Look at how stupid the West is, though. There is so much room for a team to find a way to squeak in. Like, even though they're as bad as they are, they're still scoring at a half-decent rate. They're still stopping. Like, they've allowed fewer goals than St. Louis has this year, which, I mean, who cares? It's St. Louis. But they've done very well at Mullet Arena. They have a winning record in their last 10. Honestly, to me, it's not the craziest thing if next year, 60 games in, if they land Bedard and he's not, like, I think it's them making the potential playoffs next year would be hinging on them having Bedard. But I mean, Arizona Arizona could end up being hopefully not like what everybody said Carolina was for years. It was like this year. It's finally happened, but like they're going to make it this year. They're going to do damage and then nothing. But it starts at the back end, and they've apparently, at the very least with Vejmelka, have one of the most underrated goalies, or they trade one of them away for ridiculous assets or actual players because they still have contracts. Like they're still helping out other teams with contracts. So we'll see what happens. It's fun. They're one of the few teams I want to see Bedard go to. Anaheim being one of the other ones.
Yep.
Other than that,
well, and the other thing to remember is that the Coyotes were in the playoffs not long ago. 2019, 2020.
More recently than the Devils.
Exactly. So like, I remember it. I remember watching Colorado beat them, being like, "Oh God, the second string goalie." uh, um, but yeah, it's not like they've been terrible forever. That was 2 seasons ago. Or I guess technically 3 seasons ago, but like that's not that long ago. They have talent there, and people sleep on them. That's why they squeak out these wins against teams like Tampa and Toronto and Colorado and Boston, and like they just do it. They're sneaky good
They
sometimes.
step up on the big stage. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's why a team like that, there's nothing scarier in the playoffs than a team that is just playing with house money, with nothing to lose, and they just eat top teams alive. Like they've done
And
that
when
for years.
goalies decide they're going to goalie.
And Vemelka's one
So
of them. He's one of the
and
few.
Ingram, when he was on Nashville, he showed that he's a hell of a goaltender. He put up a fight. Yeah, I know Colorado swept them, but even still, he shouldn't have been in net. But UC Soros was injured, so in comes Connor Ingram, and they weren't blowouts.
No.
He definitely made it a challenge. It was stressful watching that series, and it was predominantly because of him. So like, you've got goaltenders there. You've got a back end. You just need to fill a couple slots. And I think they're like 4 or 5 pieces away, which sounds like a lot, but so many are coming up that it's already kind of happening.
Well, not only
Just
that, the
behind
whole
scenes.
process could be sped up with whatever they get back from the Chikrin trade as well. Like that's the thing. They have
Yeah.
so many things up in the air that, yeah, they're obviously going to be sellers, but in
Yep.
their whenever you sell, there is still stuff coming back to you, and obviously they want the first overall pick. You want draft capital.
Yep.
They may actually be more interested in trying to get bodies that can play next year for them and or the year after, right? So
Absolutely. Because I don't think
we'll
they're going to
see.
get a high first round. If anything, they'll probably get a in the 20s, which means at that point maybe they could bundle 2 firsts for a higher first, but I highly doubt that'll happen.
We don't see that really ever
instead
in the
they'll
NHL.
look for prospects. So but yeah, so I'm going to change from there to a gripe that I wanted to talk about quick.
Okay, yes,
And
you mentioned this and then you didn't want to go into it, so I'm curious.
it makes me so mad that I want to just put my fist through my laptop. Who in their right friggin' mind, when designing this year's schedule, decided to themselves, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna give the reigning Stanley Cup champions 3 back-to-backs in a row. Who thought that was a great idea? That 6 games in 12 days and all of them are back-to-backs. That is terrible. And I know obviously this comes from a bias for me, but I'm pretty sure most people, if it was their team and they had back-to-back 2 days off, back-to-back 2 days off, back-to-back 2 days off. One, that schedule sucks for watching. Like 2 days off while everybody else gets to see their team play every other after the All-Star break. And then also they're so tired. Colorado should have lost against Minnesota last night. They were by far the worst team on the ice. Hands down, bar none, they did not look good. It was awful watching that game. But they still won it because I don't know why. I honestly
Because
don't know.
they're the better team at the end of the day.
They are, but it was like what they had no gas. They could barely skate. They were out of breath the whole time. The third period, it might as well have just been Georgiev in net and nobody else in front. They were exhausted. And that's just the second back-to-back situation. Now they're going into their third one this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday. St. Louis and then Edmonton on the second half of a back-to-back. Come on.
If that's where you have it, like at least it's post All-Star break where they've had a bit of rest, but I mean there's never a good time for that. It shouldn't be one of those things that, yeah, maybe the defending Stanley Cup champions shouldn't end up with 3 straight back-to-backs.
That's terrible. That's terrible playing. There's no excuse for it either.
Yeah,
Period.
It's must be one of those weird things that the dates that lined up were already taken by other things. Who knows? I would not want to have the job of being a schedule maker because
No,
as the NHL, you are the like fourth string. Concerts and events happening, the NBA, and then the NHL. Like
Yeah.
It-
Even he like sometimes even lacrosse might take over from time to time.
Depending where you are, yeah, there's a few
Yeah.
places where that's possible. But
Yeah.
like,
It just I don't know. Seeing
it's the
like
same
when
thing.
I looked at the calendar, I was like, are you friggin' kidding me? And it's like all divisional rivals too.
It's the whole scheduling this year, they've done it so stupid. Like the fact that we don't get to see another Battle of Alberta because they did the first two early on in the year. Like, end of the season is supposed to be you're seeing 2 or 3 matchups against your division rivals that you might be facing in the playoffs. The NHL was like, no, we don't want that anymore, and that's why apparently the schedule's changing next year back to being better. I hope so. I don't like that. Where like most teams have already played their division rivals for all the times that they will this year. That sucks.
New Jersey playing the Rangers anytime? Or the Islanders? I think the Islanders and Rangers, they're done, which is criminal.
We
like
have
that.
one more on March 30th.
Okay, so like pretty much the end of the season, which that's what it should be.
Yeah,
You
November
should be,
28th, December 12th, January 7th. The first one, yeah, maybe go January, February, March, and April. Like the Devils and Rangers, even if the Devils were a terrible team this year, Devils and Rangers should be one of the ending matchups. Like I really hope they fix that for next year.
The other issue with ending matchups, though, is that you don't actually get the matchup you want if there's a team that's in there and if there's a team that's fighting.
Yeah.
So, like, say New Jersey wasn't in, they're scraping for that wild card. They're going to play like it's the end of the world, whereas New York is going to be resting all of their stars and then...
Sometimes, though, but sometimes that's where you get the more interesting game because if the Rangers team has the chance, if they win, that the Devils don't get in, that's when you see some of those players play. Honestly, it feels like the last 2 months worth of the season should just be against division rivals.
Yeah.
Like, I get that they want them spread out, more chance for the fans to see these. No. If the NHL wants to have these, like, 2 facing off against 3, and then the winner of that is more than likely to face the division winner, then let them play each other more at the end of the year. Like, if I'm looking at tonight's games right now, there is one game that is in the same division of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. That's the Sharks and Golden Knights. Like, you have to go digging, okay? So we've got at least a few on Friday, but there's so few and far between. Yeah. It just feels so wrong for this time of year.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that's really stupid, and this is just a thing that happens in general, is, I mean, if I was in Tampa, or if I was in Sunrise, Florida, or if I was in Calgary, or if I was in Edmonton, I would love the fact that when non-divisional teams come in, it's always a friggin' back-to-back.
Yeah.
So one way or another, you're probably going to get more. Like, I would not be shocked if those 4 teams saw more opponents on the second half of a back-to-back than any other teams in the league, and they get this advantage of being tired, and that's why Tampa wins cups, because they always play against back-to-backs.
Well, that used to be the whole thing with the California death trip, right?
Yeah.
Like even if you didn't end up with back-to-back, it was every other night, and like your team would see that. It didn't matter if your team was undefeated, best team ever, you knew you had that coming up. You're going, oh, if we can sneak out 2 points from these 3 games, that's a win. Like,
yeah.
That, yeah.
But the scheduling was weird this season.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Way to go, Seattle.
Who knows? Maybe that's the NHL having to owe some teams and whatnot just from COVID. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know who. I do want to go from that to something that took place earlier on, because in the past 2 weeks, we have heard McDavid complain about the refs and complain about the playoff format. We have heard Sidney Crosby very loudly complain about the playoff format. And then for the first time in his career, he got a game misconduct the other night. for basically just jawing at the other guy, which was, you watch it, you're like, you do realize that's Sidney Crosby, right? Like, guaranteed the day he retires, he goes into the Hall of Fame. So they asked him after the game about it.
I don't know. There was, I think it was Anderson was going to walk and saying something to me, so him and I kind of exchanged words, and then next thing I know, I was told I got a 10, which, I mean, can I really say what I think anyway? Let's be honest here.
Like, what he says at the end, can I really say what I think anyway? Like, that's how there is such a problem, especially after
NHL.
Yeah, especially after, like, this is what, 2 days after the internet collectively goes insane because the Super Bowl seemed to have been called based on a penalty that was a nothing burger.
He held him. You can see it. He grabs his jersey.
I know, but
was
that would be
a definitive thing. No,
with 2 minutes left at that point in the Super Bowl game. That would be like if a accidental, like the follow through high sticking, and your team's on the power play in overtime in Game 7. Nobody wants that crap. Nobody.
Maybe he shouldn't have held him, and then there wouldn't have been a penalty.
It's, you know what I mean, though. There's certain times where it's like, just let them. That's the refs, or in that case, the umps taking over. The refs in this case, in the game with the Penguins, decided, okay, they're losing big time. Let's take this troublemaker out of the game.
It was unnecessary. They could have sat him for, something. I don't know. Can you sit people for that? Could have been the issue too. Is that's just the standard penalty? Is there a penalty for just unnecessary yelling?
But that's the thing. That shouldn't be a penalty either.
Well, if you're saying things that are deserving of penalization, maybe the Trevor Zegras thing. By the sounds of it, he was at least John Boy, our favorite lip reader.
Everything, before you continue on, I don't want to have it on here. Everything about what was lip read has been proven to be false.
Yes.
So
I know. John Boy said that it seems like it might have been about that person's girlfriend. So whatever, but it could have been something that's upsetting, crossing a line. So if a person says something that crosses a line that is offensive, sure, they should be penalized, and there should be something for that. And I think that's the 10-minute misconduct of hey man, you probably shouldn't say something that's wildly offensive.
But it's just ridiculous that
Crosby said something wildly offensive. He doesn't seem the type.
Meanwhile, they'll let players literally cross-check into the numbers, swing their stick at each other's heads, slash their faces, slash their hands, give guys concussions, and be like,
2 minutes. Or, Jeff Carter literally
you okay?
headhunting Cale Makar and taking him out for weeks.
Trouba headhunting every single game.
And no penalties, not even a disciplinary action on any of them because but they're good boys and we like them because hockey. No, and then for some reason this ref decides to go on a friggin' power trip against Sidney Crosby. What the hell is that? I don't even particularly like Crosby, and that I agree that's a BS call.
It was one of those things that, it's as strange as it sounds, probably good for the game in general. Now that Crosby is at that point where he's I don't care. He still holds back, but I'm going to tell you what I think.
He cares a little, but he cares more about his pocketbook.
No, I don't think he cares about that. Based on stories that I've heard about him, he is very generous and nice when pays off people's tabs and stuff like that if he's had a drink with them.
I'm just saying I think he doesn't want to pay the NHL more money.
I don't think he wants to have to go on record to apologize to a ref. I think that's more of what it is, because the NHL or the NHLPA would be well, you should probably apologize.
Well, they're probably
because our refs get their feelings hurt so much.
Because they're bad at their jobs, and we don't like to be known for having refs that are bad at their jobs, even though that's the persistent narrative of this entire year is just complete and utter shambles of refereeing. And I understand it is not an easy job to do. When I was younger, I was a referee for soccer, very different sport, obviously, but regardless, there's things you miss, and you're running around, and in their case, skating around. You have to. It's challenging, and I know you get trained, and they're at that level for that reason. But regardless, it is still, you're going to miss things. However, the volume of them missing it and the lack of anything being done about it, that's the issue.
Imagine,
It's not that they're
imagine if you
missing
had
it, it's-
zero accountability at work when you like completely messed up something major that had millions of people involved in it.
Yeah.
Instead,
like-
they're just like, all right, well, here's your
What are you gonna
bonus.
do next year?
It can't.
We're gonna make it so in the face-off dot, if your foot is outside of this line, then you get a penalty. Why? Well, cause
Meanwhile, everybody's waiting for the MLB season to start so they can watch the minors because they're doing robot refs like the ump ref, which that's coming to baseball so fast.
well, it's
So
because
fast.
they tested this current season the changes that's going to be happening. So the pitch timer, for those that don't know, in the minors, they had pitching clocks. So you had a specific amount of time before you had to pitch the ball. It speeds up the game. There's parameters
Baseball got
around it.
so bad for that.
Exactly. They increased the size of the bases to make it a little bit easier. They allowed for no more shifting, which helped the players, or limited shifting, which helped with
Helps
catching the
defense
ball.
because some people
Exactly. So they're
struggle to hit
making
across
it-
the plate.
They're making it more fun. They're making it more entertaining and engaging. More hits, more runs, more. And then
No more sticky stuff.
Exactly. And in the minors, like you said, they're testing robo-umps because they want to bring those in. And that's how you should be doing it. And the NHL is not doing that. It's like the AHL is a completely different world. They had a great all-star game, and then the NHL apparently had an all-star game.
Oh, we've talked about that. I don't feel like talking about that one again.
No.
It's so bad. Yeah. We can just hope that now that the NHLPA has a new fearless leader who starts in March, that maybe things won't go as bad this time, and we pray that 2025 we don't hear the big L word again, because we all know it's coming, because that's Bettman's big bullet.
Yeah, he'll go into that just before he retires. It'll be the last season, and then he's going to set up this awful friggin' rule about perpetuity of the rules that he set up, or something stupid, so that his legacy lives on.
Just a quick aside, something that we basically never talk about, but we both did for the first time ever last night, gambled on hockey.
Oh, yeah!
Because not sure if anybody saw, but the Leafs against the Blackhawks game, the Leafs were the highest odd team in NHL history to win. So Pat and myself, and honestly, based on my Twitter, thousands of other people put like a toonie bet on the Blackhawks, so it was very disappointing when they lost.
I mean, it was a donation to a great cause, and that cause was chaos. So, count me in. I love it.
And the best part was, it was like, aside from you and I, it was almost exclusively Leaf fans that I saw doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just so funny.
Because they've seen it a million times.
They know.
If there's people who have experience and that can probably tell you that those odds are rigged, it's them.
It's the Vietnam cake dog gif.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you have the old air horn ready there, Pat?
It is time for me to hit my big red button, and it is time for... Sorry, those listening. The games of the week. So,
I think I won this past week. I mean,
Absolutely.
you still won the season. Let's be honest here. Like, I'm not.
I just thinking about the game I chose 2 weeks ago of the Calgary versus New York. Oh, chef's kids. But this week you chose Calgary again, putting on a show. Calgary, they are just entertainment machines for some reason. And it was Calgary versus Buffalo on Saturday night. And Brian,
7 unanswered.
7 unanswered.
Crazy.
That's wild.
I don't remember which one was yours, Pat, if I'm being honest.
Mine was Tampa versus Dallas. It was 3-1 Tampa with an empty netter, so really 2-1. It was okay. I don't know.
The double Sorelli goals, apparently. Go figure.
Sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be better, but I mean, it was a goalie battle, so it's exactly what I expected it to be. But at the same time, I should have realized it would have been load scoring. So, whoops.
Okay, I have to remember where mine is. There we go. Okay. Let's make sure I click the right button here. I'm going to go with Friday. We actually were talking about this game earlier. I was like, uh-oh, is Pat going to spill what game I want? Because you even said my reasoning behind it. Tomorrow night, Friday night, 9 p.m. in Edmonton, the McDavid chase for 100 points. That is going to be interesting. And not only that, this is one of those ones where you were talking about early. I think before we actually started the episode, about being like, there's no real like team battling for top 3 against one trying to get a playoff spot. This is literally that. They are first wild card right now. They have a 5-point buffer. New York has a big buffer on the wild card. They're trying to chase New Jersey. But it's a big game for both of these teams. And McDavid going after, .100 on game 56. I mean, I don't think we're going to see him hit that magic 2-point per game. I think he would have to something like finish out with 3 points average for the rest of the way out. Because only apparently Mario and Gretzky have done that in the last 40 years or something like that. I saw some crazy stat, but McDavid is the number 1 and number 2 for being below since. Who's not named those two? It should be an interesting game.
His progression, he's getting better every year, so we might see it next year.
Yeah, honestly, watching him makes me more and more angry every single time that we haven't got to see him in a red and white jersey or a white and red jersey.
For me, it makes me angrier that he is in Edmonton. I'm sorry, Oilers fans, but he's wasting away there. He's putting up 100 points, and you guys are fighting for wild card. Come on.
You have the number 1 and number 2 point player in the league, and at least lately, I will say they've been starting to turn things around. 6-1-3. In their last 10, Campbell is starting to play well. He's got his ebbs, he's got his flows. Skinner's playing half decent. It is one of those weird things that, Erik Karlsson could end up being a difference maker for them.
I don't think so. So Erik Karlsson, before we get into my games of the week, when looking at his stats page with Jay Fresh's numbers, and even is it Dom? I think it's Dom Luszczyszyn when he posts his stuff from. Yeah, so when looking at the stats pages between those, his defensive abilities are...
They don't want him for defense. They want him as...
They have offense! Why do they need to add offense? They don't need to outscore their problems, because with literally the best goal scorer and the second best, the best points person and the second best points person, they don't need a defenseman to do that. They need a defenseman. They don't have defensemen.
I think they're thinking, this is what I'm looking at, is if Karlsson comes in, suddenly you don't give a crap about Tyson Barrie, and Darnell Nurse is just locked in playing defense. He
won't switch.
We've seen him have to do that, though, and he did it a bit in the playoffs last year when he had to, and he did half decent at it.
He wasn't great, though.
If you're the Oilers...
It feels like I'm taking crazy pills, though. Why are you adding a goal scorer when you have the goal scorer? The goal scorer!
If you're the Oilers,
dumb.
I think this is the last swing knowing, and it's just they're going. This is the thing. You're getting upset at it, and this is what we ask for every single year. Somebody do something crazy. This is the crazy play to try and win a cup.
Stupid.
Pat, every single year we're like, oh, I wish a team would do something fun. Something fun comes around, you're like, this is stupid.
Well, it's terrible for the team. Will it be fun to see that trade happen? Absolutely. Is it a stupid decision if they do it? Absolutely. Because that is not what that team needs. They need better goaltending because Jack Campbell is hit or miss. He has confidence issues. He loses a game. He lost against Detroit, which means he is going to lose his next probably 6 games. They don't have defensemen. I love Evan Bouchard when he was a London Knight, but I just don't think that he has the caliber to be a top-tier defenseman. Tyson Barrie, come on. Ceci, really? Remember when he shot it at the D? It's just they don't have good defensemen. They don't have good two-way defensemen. Bringing in a shoot first and hope that your backup is their defenseman when they don't have a backup defenseman, when they have no shield for their sword. That's the issue. And they're going to go out and get the biggest sword and hope that a tiny little car door that has holes in it because it was shot at a bunch is going to be something that can help them. No.
Literally,
it is a terrible idea for them to do it, and if they do it, I can guarantee you they are going to go out before the second round.
They are trying to basically, with Karlsson, obviously, the team would basically match up to what the Senators' last big run was. So heavy up front with defensemen. The Oilers have very good offensively oriented defensemen. None of them have puck moving skills. They all suck at it. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is the big thing. They're swinging for the fences, and I love it. Because here's the other. Do you want to know the other reason why I love it? Is that if they get him and it goes bad, the implosion is going to make the offseason so much fun. I'm thinking big picture. I'm thinking big picture here, Pat.
I'm thinking them
Do you want to see McDavid on another team? Then you want Erik Karlsson on the Edmonton Oilers and things to not go well.
I do, but I also want to see him succeed in Edmonton as much as I hate saying those words out loud. He deserves it, and the people in Edmonton deserve it. And the team that's been built around him is here's Draisaitl, here's Nurse that does okay, here's Nuge that does okay, here's Hyman who's having a career year just simply by proxy. But then nothing else. Everyone else is just Puljujarvi, they're oh, he's a great prospect. Nope. Kyler Yamamoto can't play. He's been hurt, so I can't really point a finger there. But Evan Bouchard, he should have stepped up, and he hasn't. So many people, it's should have but hasn't. That is not a player issue. That's a development issue. And they have not developed their mid-range players good. They have become all fourth liners and third pairs. That is what that team is consistent, completely comprised of. And when you look at Stanley Cup caliber teams, they have a first, a second, a third, and a fourth.
Maybe this is the new wave. We're talking about the Oilers like they weren't in the Western Conference Final last year. Yeah, Colorado fed them they just destroyed them. But who knows? Maybe it's that new style. Look at what the NBA became. Just one or two players can absolutely take over a game. Their whole game plan is outscore the problems. So now they're trying to septuple down on it. As I said, I'm all for it.
Let me tell you about the Brooklyn Nets. You had Kevin Durant.
There's your problem.
James Harden, and you had Kyrie Irving. As much as I do not like that man, he is a very talented basketball player. 3 of the most talented basketball players in the entire league were on that team, and none of them played for that team because they did nothing. You can't always rely on outscoring your problems if you have nobody else to stop what the problem is.
Who knows? Maybe there's other moves out there. We got off topic. Pat?
So my pick is Edmonton versus Colorado.
Is it actually?
Yeah. So Sunday night, February 19th.
So Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
3 p.m.
I thought it said 7.
No, 3 p.m. 7 p.m. is Jets and Devils.
Oh, I chose the wrong time, but so Sunday, February 19th.
Who knows?
3 p.m.
Maybe you'll get to see Erik Karlsson for the first time.
No. But yeah, so it's going to be Edmonton versus Colorado. I think this is where McDavid's going to hit 100. I don't know if he's going to be able to put it up against New York. New York has looked really, really good lately. Like, I know you're not a fan of them, but credit where credit is due. They've really put on a show lately. Colorado's been hit or miss. They're missing still so many key players, and they keep losing key players. So I think this is going to be an absolute blowout, and Edmonton is going to demolish Colorado. It's going to be like 7-3 because Colorado can't get more than 3 or 4 goals per game, it seems, in the past little bit. So yeah, I'm fully aware that they're going to lose, and I think McDavid's going to put up his over 100. He's going to hit 100 easily, and then 101 and 102. I think he's getting a 3-point game in this game. So I think it's going to be a hell of a game regardless, and really entertaining to watch. So yeah, and Colorado's going to be tired because they're on the second half of a friggin' back-to-back. Lucky I censored myself at the last second.
Yeah. The Oilers traveling from New York to Colorado will be interesting, or is it? I can't remember where the game is.
No,
is it in
they're
Colorado or
they're at
Edmonton?
home, so it's.
Oh, that's even worse of a flight then.
Well, it's not far. You still have to go through the mountains, and that sucks.
New York,
So,
New York to
no, they're in Edmonton.
the game's in Colorado, Pat.
Yeah, but Edmonton is playing in Edmonton.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you are correct.
And then
okay,
they
yeah,
fly
I
from
get it.
Edmonton
I
to
get
Colorado.
it. Yeah, that's not as yeah.
It's not as bad.
Not as bad.
Anyway.
This might be the first time ever, by the way, on Games of the Week where we have picked the same team as one of them for this season. Anyway, I know we did a few last year.
Yeah. No, I think. Nope. We both chose in week 9, so December 6th and December 3rd. You chose Detroit, Tampa. I chose Toronto, Tampa. So there you go. You lied.
And on that note, since I control everything, anything you want to add, Pat?
I just want to say big shout out to Brian Burke. There's been a lot of unfortunate controversy, and unfortunate is the complete wrong word. It is. I would like to use a lot more expletive-focused terms when it comes to wearing pride jerseys because of what Provorov did. That garbage human being quoting that it's his religion, which is just a complete... God, I can't even find the words because I'm so mad about it. Because of that, now teams are empowered to not wear their pride jerseys, which is just absolutely disgusting, whether it's the players, whether it's the GM, or whether it's even higher. Absolutely disgusting. So I'm really, really glad to hear that Brian Burke, when being interviewed and was asked about it, he said that it was absolutely disgusting as well. It's cowardice. And anybody that says otherwise is just as big as a coward. It's a jersey. Get over yourself, whether or not that you're on that side of things, because you're on the wrong side if you think that a jersey is harmful. No, you're wrong, and you need to understand that and do better. So thank you, Brian Burke, for consistently being on the right side of this. And I want to see more and more teams step up and do that and really push it further, because that's what the community deserves. They deserve to feel safe. They shouldn't feel unwanted and have events vanish on them because one person. No, that's completely incorrect. If one person did that with a military night, there would be an absolute uproar. So
I'm gonna add two things to that. Yeah. First off, if you're listening to this and you just got really upset as to what Pat said, we don't want you. There's hundreds, thousands of other hockey podcasts out there. Go somewhere else. The second was, I can't remember. No, it was Friday night, the Leafs Blue Jackets game. It was the Blue Jackets Pride night. Both Tavares and Marner during warm-up and during the game had the Pride tape on their sticks.
And Riley.
And, I missed Riley as well. Yep. So that is one of those, in all of that, seeing one of the biggest stars doing that, that to me should be the story, not the douche that is Provorov. Like, I don't care what this Russian defender has to say. Listen to what the people that actually matter are saying and showing with their actions. And there's a good example. The visiting team doesn't have to do anything. Nope. And those three players went out of their way. They didn't go out of their way. They would have done it anyway. So, yes. That
they wanted to show support. It wasn't going out of the way. They wanted to be where we are with you. You are safe here. Please feel welcome.
And on that note, we will talk to everybody again next week. Who knows? Maybe there will be some trades between now and then, especially Erik Karlsson.
No.
Erik Karlsson to the Oilers.
Boo.